Hey YouTube, I have some ideas about 411, this missing people thing, and not so much ideas, but I want to show you the data I've been collecting and a correlation between things. But first, I'd like to speak a little bit about something that happened almost like 20 years ago on Art Bell, and he had this guy that could predict earthquakes pretty good. And he was predicting them fairly accurately. And the way he did it was by the phase of the moon. And I'd like to qualify that because I've looked on the internet, and there's a lot of guys on the internet, a lot of websites are saying, nope, you can't, the moon does not cause earthquakes. And yeah, okay, there's truth to that. But they're doing the same thing they're doing in this 411 thing. They're trying to calm everyone down. But what this guy did on Art Bell, he was accurately predicting earthquakes. And the way he did it was the phase of the moon, the distance the moon is from the Earth. See, it causes waves in the ocean for sailors and that. And if you have a fault line, something that's already weak, and then you have this close moon, and then on top of that, he was checking for the water table. So now you have a water table and you have hydraulics, and it's pounding on the earth. And it's like the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's that little weakness. So yeah, that straw didn't break the camel's back, but it was all the things on it, and this one little thing, boom, caused this to happen. And he was pretty good with it. So, and I think, David, you might find this also to be true in your work as a police officer. Uh, I think I've talked to police, and they get kind of mad because they don't understand what I'm talking about. But the phase of the moon makes a difference to how busy you're going to be as a police officer. And I used to work in a coffee shop late at night, and you could see how busy the officers were, and it was, they didn't like admitting to it. But what if this guy that was an Art Bell, and he talked about the phase of the moon, and the phase of the moon will cause a high tide, and not only will it cause a high tide, but it'll be a double high tide if the moon is closer to the earth, and just depending on all the different things. If the moon is the same side as the sun, you can have quite the high tide, like a double high tide, not a regular high tide. Well, imagine that, forget a body of water like the ocean, but they're all sort of the same. It's just with these effects, it's just um, if you have an ocean, it's a percentage affected. And by the same token, what if your brain is just a body of water, which really it is. Your body's mostly water. What if that brain and the neurons are firing, and you have a misfire? Well, then you wouldn't be able to think. And I did the math on this, and yeah, a misfire is like near impossible. But what if you have a near miss? Now I know with computer programming, and if I had something as complex as a brain, I'd have like a system of checks. Because if you're just near missing all the time, you got to do some adjusting. Well, what if you're a patient, a mental patient, and you're normally you can do okay, but once a month or once in the moon phase, your body's not able to keep up because the neurons are firing, and you got this shifting, right? This wave shifting back and forth in your brain. What if that is just enough to get your body on high alert? Not enough to have a misfire, just enough to get really high alert. So I was looking at that, I was thinking about that, and So with this 411 thing, I added to that this concept here. First thing I did was I started taking down the people that you wrote in these tweets. That's why I'm on your Twitter page. You wrote down some of the people when it happened. I didn't have the moon phases just right. I had to make adjustments for it. But I took this data here of many of the people you've written about, and I put it in a graph like this. Now, there's a correlation here. The data. There's a grouping here and a grouping here. And what this is this is a full moon happens, and this is 2 days after full moon, 4 days after full moon, 6 days, 7 days. There's a grouping, 7 days after full moon, as well as 11 days. And I am suggesting, well, not even suggesting, data, I make money on this type of thing. Data and information is important, and irregularities are very important. This should be a smooth distribution over this whole graph, and it's not. There's clusters. And so just like you saw clusters in where the bodies are being found and where they're being dropped off, there's clusters on the moon phase, what phase the moon is in. Now, I know you might be thinking I'm saying that these people are all crazy or they're all losing their mind. No, I'm saying that the data shows something interesting, something different. And I'll show you in just a few seconds. I had my video blocked because they didn't like the video I took, what I added to it. So I'll say this first. Okay, there's a possibility, like you said, people could walk right by the body and not see it. So there's a possibility that the brain, everyone's brain, is having trouble thinking in areas like this, where there's 3 or 4. There's heights of unclarity, let's say. But that might not explain everything. I got a little video here of vortexes. Now, imagine, I'm going to go to this video here. I had to choose this one because the other one on vortexes, if you look 2 vortexes hitting each other, you'll find some interesting stuff on YouTube. Imagine, this is 4, but imagine if you had one here and one here. Let's say this is the moon here, and this is the Earth. And you have a body of water on the Earth, and it's being hit by the moon. Eventually it sort of rebounds back, and they go back and forth and hit each other. Well, what will that do? And I wanted the volume off of here, so I'll take the volume off. And what will that do? Well, you see it creates a vortex there and there. Even 2 can create a vortex. Now they're going to show you 6, I guess. And they're going to show you that this creates something completely different too. You'll see these little vortexes right over there, right? And they'll do, what are they going to do now? 4? No, another 6. And you'll see a vortex happen right over there and right over there. So, what I'm suggesting is the possibility of these vortexes causing something interesting. And what if a vortex was to hit and, imagine now for a moment that instead of, you have these Yetis and all these different things that guys are claiming are doing this 4-in-1. Imagine it's not. Or imagine, okay, I'm even imagining that, let's say all this stuff is true, but it's not exactly what you think. Like, if these were aliens coming this way, wouldn't they have like some tech with them? Wouldn't they, you know, we've advanced through tools. And my one thought was, let's adjust this. Let's say instead of thinking that they're coming here, what if these vortex are opening us to go there? And we're just on the edge of the science of this. What if these are... Now, my thought would be that these are two different vortexes over here and here. Two different ones. What if what's happening with these people is not that some aliens are dragging them off to their planet, or some yetis dragging them around? What if they're ending up in a vortex in a different plane and they are no longer on Earth? It makes more sense that these primitive beings, they were actually invading their area, not the other way. They're not invading our area. And it sort of might be difficult for us to bend our minds around, but our brain would adapt to what it expects, to what it wants to see, and we may be invading their areas and not even knowing it. Any case, I just thought I'd try and get this out here. I'm wondering if, David, if you've got any way that I can just get straight information, just like the person's name and the date, and then I'll go look up where they sit in the lunar phase. And there's actually two. There's a lunar phase, and then there's also the distance the moon is away from the Earth. And we might be able to correlate this to figure out just exactly what wave and what harmonic of waves is necessary to create a vortex. I think we're on the edge of something here, but that's just my thought. So anyways, have lots of fun with this 411 thing. I guess it is kind of tragic that people are having their issues, but I also have fun with the science of it and where this leads. Okay, YouTube, have a good day, and keep positive about this whole thing. Let's look into this.